Right, so welcome to the Solidity Insurance Group team call. My name is Marisa Maggio, and today is September 11th of 2025. I'm really excited to be on with you guys today, and I do sit back each and every week and think, who does the team need to hear from? What does the team need to hear? What can everybody benefit from hearing? And this week, I chose somebody who is, near and dear to my heart, somebody who's helped me, I think, a lot more than he might even know, and somebody who really, like he said at the beginning of this, if you heard, who really is of value literally anytime he gets in front of the room. So we have Stephen Yee, Integrity Partner, on with us today. Stephen, how are you doing?
I'm doing so much better after that introduction, I'll say. I feel good about myself right now, Marisa. Thank you.
Hey, well, you should.
I appreciate you guys for having me on. And it's funny. We had Harold Durana on our team call today, and Dennis was on that one too. And it's what the best part about our company, Marisa, is we will openly share what we're doing with who wants to know without holding back. And that's the reason why Family First Life is so good.
No
Because
doubt.
you're like, oh, I've learned a lot from Steve. I'm like, no, no, no. Let me be very clear. When it comes to this telesales things, I've learned more from Marisa, Rami, Heather than I have from anybody else. And this is why I go, is I'm just returning the favor. So I appreciate you. I thank you for having me on. Whatever I can help with, I'm definitely in. So
Absolutely. And I appreciate that. And the telesales was a transition and we all did it together, team effort, no doubt. And guys, there's really not a lot of places you can go in the insurance industry being independent and you're going to be able to jump on calls with, whomever and be a part of different things. So don't take it light, just take it for what it is and take it in. But that being said, guys, Stephen, just to get the call started, for those maybe who haven't heard from you, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you were doing before insurance, what got you into the industry, and why you chose to stand beside Family First Life.
absolutely. So I got started here about 7, 8 years ago. I was visiting my then girlfriend, now wife, in Northern California, and I haven't seen one of my buddies in over 5, 6 years probably. And I call him. I'm like, "Hey, I'm going to be in your area, and we'll love to go have lunch with you." And he goes, "Let's do it." And I said, "On one condition." And he goes, "What?" I was like, "We do not talk about work, right?" So, of course, he picks me up, and on the passenger seat where I sit is the FFL comp plan. And I'm like, "What is this?" And he basically told me, what he was selling at the time, which is final expense mortgage protection. And it made sense to me. I was like, I'd absolutely, like, if I owned a home at the time, I didn't. If I owned a home, I'd buy that. That makes sense to me. If I was older, I knew I was going to pass away, I would buy final expense, right? And so I go, what do I have to do to get licensed? And he was like, oh, you need to get a life insurance license. And I was like, yuck. Like that was my first thought. Okay. And so we get started. And at the time, I was coaching high school basketball. I was reffing high school basketball games too. I was doing all kinds of, stuff to make money. And just so y'all know, like my biggest year before selling life insurance was 22,000 for the year, not the month, for the year. And so when I came here and everybody kept talking about how you can make 20 grand a month, I thought everybody was delusional. Because I was like, if I made 22,000 for the year, how are you doing that in 30 days? And what I've come to realize was they either worked harder than me or they've been here longer. It wasn't anything more than that. Right. And so plug and played, we got started here. First year messing around with this, really doing it part time, not really giving it my all. We did like 130, 40,000 part time. Second year, taking it a little bit more seriously, still coaching basketball, still doing the things that I wanted to do. I tripped into like 250. And then third year, I was forced to sell life insurance because it was COVID and I couldn't coach, which was a blessing in disguise because I was obligated to work. We doubled our income again to 500,000 that year, moved to Vegas, and then scaled the agency. That year we cleared over, 1.2, 1.3 million, sold our business the year after that to Integrity, and life's been gravy ever since. But let me share this with you why Family First Life. Number one, no one else is able to do this. Like the amount of people that talk about fake equity and you can have part of the ownership, it's not true because half of these companies can't go public if they wanted to. Part one. Part two is like no CEO in their right mind would actually give you that without an actual legal document in between. So like this is why I go, why did I choose Family First Life? Because it's transparency. That's part one. Okay. Number two is I can control everything in the company that I work with. I can control my leads flow. I can control my training. I control comp. You can't do that at other companies. Like I remember Marisa Rami when we met with Matt, and like guess what? At every other company, he would have to start here. No ifs, ands, or buts. But we can control that here. So this is why I choose to partner with Family First Life, right? And so it's been a blessing. And I think the topic of conversation today, Marisa, is how to scale a virtual agency while leading from the front, right? Um, I'm going to give you some stuff that I've picked up over the years, and I think this should help. I like taking complex ideas and making them simple because I feel like, teachers like to take something simple and make it very hard. Educators like to take complex ideas and make it very simple for people to understand. IULs, annuities, stuff like that, right? So when you talk about scaling, when we talk about scaling, we're either scaling one of two things. We're either scaling agents or scaling volume. Is that a fair statement? Right?
100%.
Okay. So these are three things that you have to look at when you're scaling. I'd write these down if you want to build a big team. Okay. The only way you can scale is if one of these three things are happening. If you do two, even better. If you do all three, you're damn near unstoppable. Okay. First thing to scale, you need an increase of writers. How do you increase writers? You recruit. So for those of you that love your pen so much that you refuse to recruit, you will never scale. You will be a top producer, a high sales employee for the rest of your life, and you will sell till you die. I have no interest in having that title, right? So part one is increasing writers. You have 20 writers this month. Next month, you have 22. Your company grew 10%. Next month, you have 40. Your company grew doubled, right? 100% growth. We're always continuously adding writers. How many people write insurance on our behalf? That's part one. Part two, we increase app count, the amount of applications that we write. That's the other way so like if Rami writes 10 apps last month and this month I get him to write 20 apps, there's more volume for Rami, right? Considering his premium's the same, right? So how do we do that? Leads. Constant lead flow, constant cash flow. So we increase app count by controlling leads. The third thing, increase AP per app. You sell final expense, average AP is like $600. You move into like term mortgage protection, whatever it is. Now it's $1,000, $2,000, whatever it is. You move into IULs, now it's $3,000. So like if Rami did 10 final expense apps, he's writing $6,000. He does 10 mortgage protection apps, it's probably like 15 grand. He does 10 IUL apps, it's probably 25, 30 grand. Y'all following me? But here's what's crazy. If you can increase writers, increase app count, and increase AP, you scale very fast. Most people don't do all three. Most people do one. Most people just increase writers, if they even do that to begin with. Most people will increase app count because they'll just spend a little bit more on leads this week, right? Very few people are actually able to increase AP per app by moving into different types of leads. This is the beauty of Family First Life when you ask me. I told the story 2 weeks ago on our agency call. We call it the rebirth of the life insurance industry. Because when I got started, and some of you guys got started, we sold insurance face to face, knee to knees, belly to belly, over the kitchen counter. We don't do that anymore. So, like the way I built the insurance business back then, if I took the same concepts and brought it here, I'd fail miserably. So, for those of you that are like, well, Steve's been here for 7 years, and Marissa's been here for X amount of years, and so and so. Yeah, but guess what? Virtual sales started literally like 3 years ago. It is a ground floor opportunity for every single one of you on the call. That's the beauty of it. And so, like, yeah, the industry's been around for 400 years. One of our insurance companies, Nassau, they're the ones that insured Abraham Lincoln's death, right? But the way they did insurance back then is definitely not the way that I did insurance, and it's definitely not how insurance is done now. It is a rebirth and a relaunch of life insurance. So let me tell you why that's important. I'm a big, when I was 19, one of my mentors in business, he said, study successful people and study successful companies. He goes, if there was a book on failures, you should read it so you know exactly what not to do. But there's not very many books on that. So I studied McDonald's. Some of y'all have watched the movie Founder. I was a big fan of going, in John C. Maxwell's book, he talks about Dick and Maurice McDonald, the actual founders of McDonald's. But I realized that when I was a kid, Rami, when I was like 10, 11, 12, and I would walk into, like, when we used to actually walk into McDonald's, right? Instead of going through drive-through, when we used to walk into a McDonald's, there's always a plaque of Ray Kroc. And I was like, it's called McDonald's. Why is Ray Kroc on there? You want to know why Ray Kroc is on there, Marisa? Because he's the one that scaled McDonald's. We're talking about scaling, right? He was the
Mhm.
one that scaled it. He was the one that took the franchising opportunity and went bananas with it. The original creators were bottlenecked because they didn't want to do that. They only had two stores in San Bernardino. And so, scaling, which is the topic of conversation, I want you to understand how to actually scale properly. Okay. When McDonald's first started, they sold hamburgers and cheeseburgers. Right off the rip, they were the number one distributors of hamburgers and cheeseburgers in the United States. They added a fish sandwich, filet of fish. Overnight, they became the number one distributor of fish in fast food. They added chicken nuggets, chicken sandwich, right? Overnight, number one in food distribution, fast food for chicken. They added ice cream, milkshakes. Overnight, they became number one in those things. Why am I saying that? If you guys are smart. If you guys were opening up a restaurant, would you open up a McDonald's or would you open up a Long John Silver? Would you open a McDonald's or would you open up a Chick-fil-A? I'm not saying which food tastes better. I'm talking about profitability. Are you following me? And
Yep.
so we at Family First Life were McDonald's. Marisa, when we started here about 10 years ago, we only did one thing, mortgage. And we dominated that. We dominated that without even a question. I don't even, like, there's no argument on that. Then we have FE. Then you have these companies that have done FE for years, 30, 40, 50 years in the industry. Their IMOs only sell FE. Guess what? We run circles around them. Last time I checked, when we did the math on integrity, I think Family First Life did 300 million a year in just final expense. No term, no IULs. Marisa, you know what we added last year or 2 years ago?
How much?
IULs.
IOLs, yep.
Guess who's creeping up on the IUL board? We
We
are.
are.
This is why I say it's the rebirth of life insurance. You need to understand what you have at hand. The problem is so many of you guys come in and you go, I don't know what to write because we have options. This is where I go niche. Get really good at one. Don't stay there forever. But like if you guys crush Vet FE, sell that. And then once they sell more, then we go, let me introduce you to mortgage. Let me introduce you to IULs. Let me introduce you to annuities. This is like us adding the different types of food groups. Are y'all following me? Am I crazy? We're
Yeah,
good?
it
Okay,
makes
cool.
full sense. Full sense.
This is
Love
what I
this.
want you guys to understand. The reason why so many people can't scale fast is they take everything on at once. That's the hardest part. Like if I were to come in and I go, Marisa, I want to work with your guys' group and I want to be able to sell insurance. What do I sell? And then if I talk to Ram and he goes, you should sell with BetFE. And then I'm making this up. And then I talk to Heather and Heather's like, well, you should start with mortgage. And then I talk to Matt and Matt's like, you should sell IULs. And I talk to Amy, he's like, screw all that. You want to do annuities. I'm now lost. But if I talk to Rami, he goes, Vet FE, bro, right off the rip. Aged ones, best bang for your buck. Heather, what should I run? Age FE, best bang for your buck. Melissa, what do I run? Everybody gives me the same answer. My chance of succeeding is way higher. You know why? We're all in the same direction. Now, once I hit
Singing the
20,
same
they go, hey,
song.
you add this, right? And we continue to
Yeah.
add more later on. But when you start, where are we starting? McDonald's started with cheeseburgers and hamburgers. Does that kind of make sense?
Does.
So,
Start somewhere and add on. And I appreciate just your transparency through like this whole conversation. This has been amazing so far. And in scaling, like you said, increase writers, increase app count, increase AP per app, right? Like those are the three ways that we can scale. And I love how you said if you're doing all three, like you're running right now. You might not even see it. That being said, Steven, through your years there's instant gratification in sales, right? We
Right.
sell that policy, we get paid on it the next day. That's great. But like you said at the beginning of the call, unless you want to stay on your own pen for the rest of your life, right? Like there has to come a time where you're like, I want to do this thing, or I'm going to write insurance for the rest of my life. That being said, during some of the turning points, because you hit on those numbers early on in terms of your income, right? And that's incredible. But talk to us a little bit about some of the setbacks you had building, or maybe some of the doubts you had when you were building of like, is this going to work? Because you weren't seeing necessarily that instant gratification.
Absolutely. So Trey says it best. Selling is like dating, recruiting is like a marriage. And that's real. Because I can recruit somebody today. If they're not licensed, I can't make a dollar off that agent for at least 2 months. Because they got to pass their exam, get fingerprinted. Department of Justice has to clear their fingerprints. Now they got to write. Now they got a license number, and then we got to get appointed. After they go through appointments, they suck. They're brand new. They don't know what they're doing. Then we got to go through training. That's a very long process. But you want to know what's crazy? Here's what's fascinating. I shared this with our top guys the other day. When I first made 20 grand a month selling insurance, 90 some percent of that was me. 90% of the income when I was making 20 grand was me. When I got to 40, 70% of that income was me, give or take. I got to 60, 70, 80. About half that income was me. We got to 100 plus, it was 100% the team. So if you look at Trey, Andrew, Zach, Easton, all the big agencies, I guarantee you this. If you took their income and divided it by personal sales versus agency override's massive. It takes the longest, but it's the best because it doesn't end. Like if y'all were to cook a steak, would you microwave it? It'd get done quickly, but it tastes like crap. Or would you slow cook it, temperature, right? Like it's a longer process, but it tastes better. It's the same thing in our business. Selling is like the immediate fix, and I'm all for it. But recruiting is the long-term game. There's a saying that we said, um, damn, I'm sorry, I've drawn a blank.
You're good.
Hire to retire. Hire to retire. Because if you don't, you're going to sell forever. Sell to live, hire to retire. That was a saying that we had. That's in our boot camp, right? I firmly believe that. And so here's where it's so fascinating. We did a meeting in Palm Springs. Y'all remember this? There was like 50 of us. And I go, raise your hands if you all sold 10 grand over a weekend before. Everybody's hands goes up. And I asked the question, I said, if you sold 10 grand in a weekend, then why are you back in the field on Monday? And one guy shouts in the back of the room. He goes, because you got to get ahead. I go, and that's why you'll never have a big team. Because you love your personal pen more than your downline.
That part.
Because here's what I can tell you. If I sold 10 grand a week, I'm almost pretty sure my bills are paid. Right? 10 grand every week consistently. And for most of you guys on the call, y'all are competent enough that on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, if y'all sold 10 grand in those 3 days, then what are you really doing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday? Why do you need to play catch up? Because you know what I would do in those 3 days? I would recruit. I would teach the people that I recruited already how to sell more insurance. Marisa, increasing AP per writer. Because if not, you're only going to be able to only focus on your own personal pen. Yeah, Vernon, 10K a week is Hall of Fame. Take 3 weeks off, you're still doing Hall of Fame. 400 grand. Does that make sense? Like this is why I go like Andrew Taylor, like we understood this assignment very early on. We had no interest in writing $1 million plus a year because we were like the guys that had $1 million pen never had agencies. But like all of Andrew's integrity partners, top producers, top managers, we were all Hall of Fame producers, so we knew how to write. But we didn't fall in love with our pen. We fell in love with helping agents make more money so we can get the heck out of the field. Does that make sense? Like you
It
might
makes
beat me
perfect.
to 800,000 in deposits because you write seven of it, but you won't get to a million before me because it's very hard to make a million off your own pen. That's why there's only like six guys in the entire company. And then you want to talk about making a million and a half, 2 million? Good luck.
Right.
That's 100% team based. So don't fall in love with the short term fix. And here's the other thing, like everybody has their number. Some people are like, if I made a $500,000 a year, I'm good. Absolutely. But did you want to be great? How about making a 500,000 passive when you don't have to sell? Right? That's the stuff that we talk about in our group. Like we have this conversation in our leadership meeting earlier this morning. I said, here's what's cool. National convention is like 5, 6 months away, right? And I go, every single one of you guys on this call, ask yourself, how many people did you have at national convention with you last year? If that answer was zero, if that answer was 1, 3, 10, whatever it is. And I go, here's the best part. Convention is 5, 6 months away. So even though if the current answer is zero, it doesn't have to be zero in January. Because we had an agent in our team that in 2 months put 25 people butts in seats at a national convention. And so here's the thing. We like my previous sales companies we worked at, we would always talk about how much training is on your behalf. So like if I'm an individual producer and I go to national conference, I had 3 days of training because I'm the only one there. If I had 10 people there and they actually sat through it all, we would have 30 days of training. If I had 100 people there and they actually sat through the training for 3 days, we would have 300 days of training. Who do you think's going to sell more insurance? Back to our scaling list, right? This is why I'm saying what I'm saying. You want to scale, these are the answers. You got to be able to teach people how to recruit. You got to teach people how to increase their lead budget. You got to teach them how to move into other types of leads after they've understood and niched in the one they are. And then you got to teach them how to get butts in seats. Because you know the best part about national conferences, nobody ever has a bad experience.
So
So
true.
like Marisa gets to train our agents and I get to go, she's good, right? Yeah, I know, way better than me. Y'all crazy for listening to me. Listen to her. And then like we can point to other people and let them learn from everybody. Like think about how crazy this is. Like y'all live in Mass, right? And I'm
Yep.
in Vegas, which is like almost the opposite part of the country. If I wanted, if I wanted to interview the top agents in our company, watch this. I gotta go fly to Austin, Texas to be with Zach. I gotta fly to Florida to be with Sean. I gotta fly to Mass to be with y'all. I I gotta fly to Colorado to be with Easton. I gotta fly to Chicago, Illinois to be with Stan. I gotta fly back to California to be with Trey. How much am I spending on airfare and flights and hotels? A lot. But guess what? For 3 days, we're all coming to one place. You're compressing your learning curve. It's called an intensified learning curve, which is why if you can't get butts in seats, you can't scale because you're the only one picking up the knowledge. Y'all ever sit in a training and go, "Ooh, that was good." It wasn't meant for you. It was meant for someone on your team. And then you look, you're like, dang it, that fool ain't even here.
Yep.
Right? That's what training does.
No doubt. And Stephen, while we're on this topic of essentially events, convention, right, Ignite, I'm not sure I'm sure you and I would have crossed paths at one point, but I don't know that we would have, right? Because like you said, we're on opposite sides of the country, right?
Right.
That being said, we've met, I know I've networked with tons of people and so have you, and that's how you've built a lot of your relationships here. That being said, Stephen, if you never attended like your first convention or your first conference that you can think of, how do you think your business would look different today?
Y'all want to hear a crazy story? Check this out.
Yeah,
My
always.
first convention was in Vegas. I lived in California, so we drove up, right? And the guy up training was talking about annuities, and it was right before lunch. So Marisa, I was like, I gotta use the restroom. I've been holding it for quite some time, and I'm hungry. I might be able to get a head start on lunch. And I go, but wait a second, you're broke as hell. That's why you're here. You're here to learn, so sit your ass in the chair. So I sat. The guy training goes, raise your hand if you've ever had a client tell you they hate annuities. I was like, oh, me? Right? And he goes, and the next time they say that, I want you to say this. And he gave me a line. And I go, oh, that was good. Right? I didn't think anything of it. I just wrote that note down. We go eat lunch. We go do our thing. We finish conference. I go back in the field that very next week. First appointment. Hey, Mary, do you have any life insurance that's private, not work related, blah, 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 blah? No. Do you have anything that acts like life insurance, like a 401k IRA that has a beneficiary attached? Yes, I do. What do you have? I have a 401k. Awesome. We have these products that can basically help you protect your downside risk and participate in gains. She's like, is it an annuity? I was like, yeah. She's like, I hate those. I go, here's my opportunity. I said what I said. And she was like, oh, I didn't sell it at that point. Finished my mortgage protection appointment, sold her, came back and was like, hey, are you free next week for me to come run an illustration? Blah, 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 blah. Absolutely. Rami, I rolled a $500,000 annuity. That was a $27,000 commission for
Oh,
that, for me not taking a piss at national conference and starting lunch early because I wanted to. And most of y'all do too. And I go, that's a boring topic. I don't want to learn about that. But because I was a student, I did. And by the way, that was the first annuity. And I probably rolled like 15 more after that.
love
This is
it.
why I say sit your butt there. How important is national conference? I didn't even know I needed that training. I didn't even know I needed it because I was like, oh, I'm here to learn how to sell mortgage protection and final expense and build a team and blah, 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 blah. I didn't even know I needed that. But Marisa, that piece of business kept me in business. That was like the
Absolutely.
down payment on my home, actually.
27,000 when you're coming from nowhere to somewhere, that's a lot,
Yeah.
no
You know
doubt.
what I mean? So,
And then it
like, do I
changed
think
your
it's
whole
a
entire
fraud?
business.
Absolutely. Because here's the other part. We're like we're like seeds. Everybody's in a different season. So, like, y'all ever take notes? Like Marisa, you and Rami, y'all will sit next to each other, like literally right next to each other, with Christina too. And the same speaker's training, and y'all are hearing the same thing. But if we look at your notepad, it's three different notes. You know why? Because what Rami is receiving is for him. It's what he needs in the business right now. And what you're receiving and what Christina's receiving is what they need at that moment. This is why when people share notes, I think it's the dumbest thing in the world because I'm like, you're not in the same season as me. Why would I share notes with you? You know what I mean? Like we can have all 3,000 people sit there, take notes, and we cross reference notes, and none of them look the same. We don't even know if that guy even said that. You get where I'm going? This is why
Yep.
I go, no, 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 no. I'm not trying to recreate national conference. I just want you to experience it because I don't know what you need. I don't know what's that thing that flips and now your business booms. I can't pinpoint it. Like y'all know how people go, oh, something happened on this day and I changed my life forever. I don't know what day that was for me. But what I can tell you, it was a culmination of a ton of things. And then one day you wake up and then things are different. I can't pinpoint and go at 10:32 September 3rd in 2019 this happened and my business no. But when you have intense training over 3 days at a national conference, you're like drinking out of a fire hydrant. Something's about to stick. And we don't know what it is because what it is for Heather might be different than Dennis. What it is for Dennis might be different than Clint. What might be different for Emily versus Noel, we don't know. That's why we go, hey, we just have the training. Y'all pick up what you need. It's like a buffet line. I don't like that food. Keep walking. I want that. Scoop it up. Put it on your plate. That is what national convention is.
No doubt. And I think there's to the point of the bathroom, right, guys? You can look at me like that's a silly story. No, that's a story that literally happens at every single event. Stephen, to your point, at the last Ignite, they had an agent, and like you said, you hear something, and you're like, oh, like that's so good, and you're just like you're looking for that agent, like making sure that they're like, I hope they heard that. You're ready to like text them, like, yeah, you heard that. I looked around, that agent wasn't there, and I was like, damn, where'd she go? And I got a message that she left 30 minutes early because she didn't want to hit traffic on the way home. And I was like, damn, you missed it, right? And it just spoke, at least it spoke to me from what I thought she needed to hear based off the conversation we had just had.
Right.
So, guys, it's like me and Steven are not sitting here telling you, hey, don't use the bathroom. What we're sitting here telling you is, hey, you're going to make a commitment to bet on yourself and get out there. Go out there in whatever season you're in and gather what you need to gather to get yourself to the next stage. But while you're doing that, don't entertain BS like, oh, I'm gonna go play a video game while this person's on stage, or it's like, just sit there and just listen because it's that small sentence, to Stephen's point, that can literally change the trajectory of your entire business. And that happens, Stephen, there's so many stories out there, right? Like, I have my own convention story. It's like, I don't know that I'd still be here. I didn't
Right.
fully understand things at one point. Like, I wasn't always that I'm not the sharpest tool in the shed. It's
But
like,
you're in the
guys,
shed.
but like get yourself there though, because you like to see you don't know what you need, and you're committing to being in this as a business owner. To me, it's confusing. It's like if I worked at Microsoft and they told me, oh, we have an event every year, I'm gonna be there. Like I don't have a choice. Guys, you own your business. And Stephen, I'm sure you can relate to it. It's confusing sometimes when folks are more inclined to be that W-2 employee and work that 9 to 5 and be all upset and grind and hate their boss, but then they won't work 9 to 5 for themselves. It's like, that's sad, but like Steven said, there's going to come a day where it's a compilation of small things that matter, small things that changed your business along the way. Because to his point, I didn't wake up on September 3rd, 2022 and be like, oh, this is the day. I don't believe it just happened. Like, no,
That's a
it's
good
like
day, Marisa. For
definitely
those
the
who
day.
actually understand.
I'm like, that's both of our birthdays, by the way. We're birthday twins. But it's like, like we like it's just like things happen and it's a compilation of things. And I know I'm still working every day to be better, and I know Steven is too. And like, so to our point, guys, like whether you think you're amazing, you think you need work, you think that you are terrible, get yourself to the event, because after leaving the event, I've never left and been like, oh wow, I really wish I didn't go this year.
Right.
I've left and been like, oh wow, I actually gathered this, and this when I thought I was going to this, and this, but I got all of them. And now they're in my basket and I get to use it. So, Stephen, this call has been incredible, and it's really gotten to the point, so to say, of how to scale your business and how to treat it like a business, not just your own pen. Because I love how you said you love like that person in the back when you were at that, event out in
Palm Springs.
California. You said, you love your personal pen more than you love your agents, right? And it's like when we can learn to reverse that and help them make a heck of a lot of money and duplicate the process, that's when we're making a big difference. Guys, we all make a difference every day by helping people with their life insurance. But like how many of us needed this opportunity and you don't know what you'd be doing without it? Because that's me for sure. I don't know what I'd be doing. I'm like, I would be like probably making 22,000 a year, Steven. Like, you know what I mean? Like straight up. But like we decided to bet on ourselves, guys. That's why you're here. So like bet on you every single time. Stephen, I appreciate you immensely. You've stayed a student of the business, and I respect that for you immensely because you could be a know-it-all. Guys, here at FFL, we do not choose to act that way. We're humble, we're ready to learn, we show up ready to learn. So, Stephen, thank you so much for being on with us.